Thanks, Sophie. Tonight on BBC London. The killing of 14-year-old Daniel Anjorin in a samurai sword attack in Hainault. A man's found guilty of his murder. Police describe it as a brutal and cowardly attack.
A talented, gentle and bright young man. A much-loved son and brother. Brutally murdered simply walking to school.
Also on the programme. A special investigation exposing how balconies on a new-build housing estate in East London were so badly designed they posed a risk to life. Plus, cases of antisocial behaviour have more than doubled in the last 5 years. We see the toll it takes on some of those affected in South London. And
hello, tonight's massive party will be taking place as scheduled.
taking us back to 1989, a virtual rave experience at the Barbican recreates the sights and sounds of Acid House. Good evening and welcome. I'm Alice Bandukravi. We start with more on what's been described as a brutal and cowardly attack on a 14-year-old boy in Hainault last year. Today, Marcus Monzo was found guilty of murdering Daniel Anjorin and attempting to murder 3 other people. Sonia Jessup is at the Old Bailey for us this evening. Sonia.
If you think back to that morning in April last year, people on that street in Hainault were waking up just like any other day, and among them 14-year-old Daniel Anjorin, who had stepped outside his home only to be attacked by a man wielding a samurai sword. Well, today, that man, Marcus Monzo, was found guilty of his murder and guilty of injuring 5 other people. And in the footage that we're about to show you, to warn you that there are some distressing images right from the start and throughout my report, you will see how quickly events took place over a matter of just 20 minutes. And you'll also see the extraordinary bravery of the officers who stopped him. Flowers in memory of a 14-year-old boy, killed as he left home for school by a man wielding a samurai sword. Daniel Anjorin, described as the most loved and amazing son. The attacks on this street in April last year took place within just 20 minutes and left 5 others seriously injured. The first was Donato Owule. He just left Hainault station on his way to work. At 6:51 a.m. he was hit by a van driven by Marcus Monzo. Somehow he managed to get away. 10 minutes later, Daniel stepped out of his home, put his headphones on and was killed by Monzo, who came at him from behind with a sword.
He just killed that boy. He just killed him.
London ambulance were quickly on scene but couldn't reach Daniel at first.
There's anybody here who believes in God?
Drop it!
Are there gods here?
Drop!
Are there gods?
Police used pepper spray as they bravely tried to disarm Monzo, but he ran off.
Oh, he's running! He's running!
2 officers chased him. One, PC Yasmin Metcham Whitfield, was attacked. The prosecution said it was a miracle she survived.
Police officer stopped! Police officer stopped!
Around 7:06 a.m, Monzo walked into a house and injured Henry de los Rios Polania and tried to attack his wife as they slept alongside their 4-year-old daughter. The court heard he ran off when the little girl began to cry. Around 90 seconds later, he was back outside. PC Malloy Campbell using his police baton against the sword. Seconds later, Monzo had jumped up on the roof of some garages. Police tasered and arrested him in a front garden. Well, outside court, Chief Superintendent Stuart Bell paid tribute to Daniel. He called him a talented, gentle and bright young man, and also to his family for their courage and dignity. He also praised the officers for the bravery they had shown in running towards danger, putting their lives at risk in the line of duty.
I'm in no doubt that the actions of those officers who arrived, pursued and attempted to detain Monzo saved lives and prevented more harm that day. I commend them for their extraordinary bravery. some of them setting out to deal with that call before their shift had even begun. These officers are a credit to the Metropolitan Police Service, and we continue to support them during their recovery.
And Sonia, what do we know about Marcus Monzo?
Well, the court heard that he is a conspiracy theorist, a martial arts enthusiast. Footage was shown to the jury of him unboxing the sword that he had bought a few months earlier. On the day of the attacks, he had killed his own cat and tried to eat it. Now, he told his trial that he had no memory of any of the events that took place that day. He had been having a psychotic episode at the time, but the prosecution said that this had been brought on by his use of cannabis and was no defence to murder. Marcus Monzo will be sentenced here at the Old Bailey on Friday.
One of the UK's biggest construction firms is facing serious questions tonight over building safety after a BBC investigation uncovered major design flaws in the balconies of one of their flagship developments. Bouygues UK, the construction giant behind thousands of homes, hospitals and public buildings, was paid over £40 million to build the Weavers' Quarter estate in Barking in East London, where, as we've previously reported, residents have faced major problems with their balconies. Now, BBC London has obtained the original architectural drawings and shown them to independent experts. Their verdict is damning. The balconies were so badly designed they posed a risk to life. Our investigations reporter Guy Lynn has this exclusive story.
For the first time in a year, Kinga and her children step onto their balcony.
Okay, you can open. Weird. Quite weird. Like, it has been locked for a while. We have been pretty scared to use the balconies. My son is still a bit scared.
Until now, they'd been warned it was too dangerous. But after months of repair, it's finally safe to walk on.
There should be some absolute basic standards met in terms of, the new developments. And something like this is just absolutely horrendous.
The nightmare began for hundreds of residents in late 2023, when one of the balconies on the Weavers' Quarter on the Gascoigne estate in Barking partially collapsed. Scaffolding went up as fears grew that scores more balconies across the estate would follow. BBC London wanted to understand why a balcony on a new build development had failed so badly. We sent samples of the wood from the collapsed structure for independent testing to check its strength and how easily it absorbed water. Shockingly, scientists found it was more suitable for a kitchen cupboard than the British weather.
In summary, if that product came to me fresh and had never been outdoors, I would be saying that this should be used indoors only.
So how worried would you be to know that that product was being used in balconies?
I think that's quite a big fail on somebody's part.
Bouygues UK, who built the estate, told us the balconies were prefabricated off-site by a subcontractor. That subcontractor, we can reveal, was this company, Weldrite UK, based in Kent, who used a cheaper and weaker wood, potentially putting hundreds of residents at risk. Not exactly delighted to see us when we went to get some pictures of their factory.
Well, you need to put your camera down now, you need to get off the property now.
Weldrite UK told us it wasn't their fault. Bouygues UK signed off on the build and never asked for changes. And the design was flawed.
The landowner said you're not allowed to film on the property.
OK, all right, fine, we'll leave.
Yeah.
From the start, this story has been a catalogue of errors, with everyone trying to blame everyone else for what went wrong. Now, though, the BBC has seen new evidence. These documents which we've obtained raise really quite worrying questions about the genesis, the design of this project, right from the start. Bouygues, one of the UK's top construction firms, has built hospitals, schools and homes across Britain and was paid more than £40 million to deliver the estate in 2019. We've shown the original balcony designs produced by Bouygues UK to 6 independent experts, including structural engineers, materials specialists and facade consultants, for their opinion.
This is one of the poorest ones I've seen.
In your life?
Yeah, in my life, yeah.
The inferior wood used by Weldrite UK, which was contrary to the design, caused the collapse to happen more quickly. But all the experts agree, even with the correct materials, these balconies were susceptible to fail eventually. And this expert says Bouygues UK's original design was a ticking time bomb.
The way it's been shown on the drawing that it goes together is poor, so the water can't get out. They haven't allowed the right gaps in the right places, the drainage in the right places. Timber will rot, and if it rots, it will then collapse. Whoever's checked the drawing and then signed it off for construction is obviously got it wrong, because it wouldn't actually stay up. It's a disaster that things are being designed this way, because you're looking at risk to life, basically.
We asked Bouygues UK why balconies with serious design flaws were approved, what safety checks were in place at the time, and why more wasn't done to independently verify the development before completion. They didn't answer those questions, instead referring to a previous statement in which they apologised, said remediation work was underway, and took safety very seriously.
The issue we were told was that it was substandard materials. To then find out that it was actually the design as well, it brings us right back to square one, not getting a straight answer. And once again, we feel like our safety is bottom of the list.
This was an extreme case, but not the only example of problems with new build developments.
I would like to be able to make sense of how this balcony design got through, and how it got put on the building, and how it was passed by building control. I can offer no reason as to why this was allowed to happen. With this balcony, you couldn't have got a worse case scenario. It should have been obvious that it was going to fail in a very short period of time.
This estate was marketed as a showcase, affordable homes to help people onto the housing ladder. But knowing the design was so dangerously flawed from the start has only deepened the fear of living here, felt by hundreds on this estate. Guy Lynn, BBC London.
Well, this, of course, raises questions about new build design and safety. Paula Higgins is from the Homeowners Alliance. Thank you for being here with us this evening. First of all, what's your reaction to what we've just seen there?
It's absolutely shocking. I mean, it's amazing how this got through. There's a category of errors. It looks like no one's taking responsibility. There should be lots of checks in place. And it's the poor people who are living there who are worried. And it shouldn't have happened. And hopefully it won't happen again.
Paula, your organisation offers help and advice for buyers. Obviously, that is an extreme case. Can you reassure people watching that most new builds don't have anything near that kind of risk?
Yes, I mean, there's, usually a new build will be designed correctly. It'll go through building control, so there'll be checks and balances. Normally, when you're buying a new build, you will get things like snagging issues, poor workmanship, things like that, which will be fine. You can deal with them. You can go to the managing agents and that sort of thing. Sometimes water leaks. So it's generally the vast majority of new builds are fine. And that's why we've got a regulatory system in place to stop these types of issues occurring.
And so, when thankfully the problems are relatively minor, what do people do? What can they do?
Well, the first protocol is to complain, to escalate, to speak to the building manager or to the freeholder to find out, to get things fixed. If you're not getting any joy with that, you can escalate. We always say make sure you get everything done in writing. So if it's a new build, if it's actually within 2 years, you can go to a consumer code. If you are, in this case, it was a housing association, is that you can go to the ombudsman as well, the housing ombudsman, to get redress. But I must stress that if it is something that you're really worried about, and it's dangerous and it's a risk to health and safety, you can go to the local authority, and the local authority does have the powers to put things right and to demand that the developer makes things right. But this will be in rare cases. Usually it's more snagging type issues.
And then just finally, if you go to your managing agents and you're not happy with what they're doing, then where do you go?
Well, I mean, as I said, you can go through these different routes, but unfortunately, sometimes managing agents are not doing what you want them to do. So there are opportunities. You can go to the First Property Tribunal and get a new manager, appoint a new manager. But ideally, you want to get control over your own building. You want to get the right to manage. So there's a process for that, and that's probably the best route to do. So you won't have these problems later on, and you've got control over your own building.
But it does obviously require a lot of input from those homeowners.
It does. There's eligibility criteria. You've got to speak to all your neighbours. There's lots of advice out there on our site, the Leasehold Advisory Service, that you can go to get advice.
Well, that's really, really helpful. Paula Higgins from the Homeowners Alliance, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Now, cases of antisocial behaviour have more than doubled in the last 5 years, according to the body that handles complaints from social housing residents. Scores of people have been telling the BBC about relentless noise, vandalism, death threats, and even physical assaults by neighbours. Tara Welsh has been meeting Jihan, Edgevet and Melissa, who got in touch from South London.
It's just been awful having to live with her next door.
I didn't say me.
Really loud music, screaming, swearing.
So many threats, calling us Turkish, a lot of racial abuse.
This is their neighbour, armed with a knife, in the middle of the night. They say it was after they told her to turn the music down, after months of antisocial behaviour.
Waking up at 4 a.m.
I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police.
I don't give a
The family say despite multiple calls to the police, they're often told there's nothing they can do. When there was an arrest for this incident involving a knife, their neighbour was bailed back home the very next day.
We were like, how could they let her out?
What will it take for them to take action? Does someone need to be killed?
The police force told us it was working to support the victim, and their housing association, which has apologised, said it's reviewing their security. Their neighbour pleaded guilty to threatening a person with a blade, and then last month this happened. Police say someone has been charged.
What we see with cases involving antisocial behaviour is, on the one hand, landlords handling them really effectively, but on the other hand, in some of the most serious cases, really losing sight of the issues, losing sight of the victim.
This family is one of many that got in touch with Your Voice, Your BBC News about antisocial behaviour.
It's also a failure for someone who is clearly very vulnerable and is struggling with their mental health. You know, she deserves the help that she needs, as well as, you know, considering my family's safety.
The National Housing Federation says housing associations treat the issue very seriously and will take action to mediate swift resolutions. But this family and others feel let down by a system that they say offers little protection to those experiencing and acting in an antisocial way.
You don't know whether my parents are going to go to sleep okay, or if they're going to wake up okay, or...
Tara Welsh, BBC London.
OK, let's take a look at some of today's other stories now. It's emerged that a patient died as a result of the ransomware attack on NHS blood services at London hospitals and GP surgeries last June. King's College Hospital NHS Foundation Trust confirmed that one person had died unexpectedly during the Russian cyber attack last summer, which disrupted more than 10,000 appointments. Eurostar passengers have faced a second day of severe delays. Yesterday was because 2 people died on the railway track in France. Today's delays were down to cables being stolen. Eurostar advised some travellers to postpone their journeys. And a woman who lost 2 limbs after being hit by 2 tube trains has launched a personal injury claim against London Underground Limited. Sarah de Lagarde slipped on a platform at High Barnet Station in North London in 2022 and fell down the gap. London Underground Limited is defending the claim. To southwest London now, where Thames Water says a controversial drought scheme at Teddington is absolutely essential to protect the capital's water supply in the future. But the company is struggling with debt and could be facing nationalisation. And campaigners say it should instead be dealing with leaking pipes and sewage overflows. Here's our environment correspondent, Tom Edwards.
At Isleworth Public Hall, a consultation on a controversial drought scheme. In a dry spell, they take river water for London's supply and replace it with treated effluent.
This project is absolutely essential. We've just had the hottest and the driest spring on record, and our water resources are just under increasing pressure.
And why replace it with treated effluent? That's what people don't like the idea of.
So the project is really simple. What we want to do is we want to take some more water from the river, just upstream of Teddington Weir. But we don't want to have an adverse impact on the river's health. So we need to put some more water back into the river, which is why we put the recycled water or river-ready water into the river at Teddington Weir.
Would that be safe to swim in?
So absolutely.
This is where it would happen at Teddington. There's strong opposition. Heather lives locally.
We don't need this major project, and it is entirely unnecessary. Thames Water have done nothing to stop the leaks that would be the first way of preserving water. We all understand it's not intended to be raw sewage that will go into the Thames, but treated sewage is not river water.
Campaigners also point to sewage in rivers and a company struggling with debt that could be nationalised. Wouldn't it be better to fix the leaking pipes?
So fixing leakage is absolutely a priority for us, and it makes up the first part of our plan.
Some people would say this is kind of fiddling while Rome burns. Couldn't you be nationalised in 2 or 3 months?
So our creditors and the regulators are talking regularly with government about making sure the company is on a much firmer financial footing. But we're getting on with the job here at Thames, and particularly me and my team. Our water resources are under pressure. We know we are not going to have enough water in the future if we don't invest in projects like this.
Do you think you'll be nationalised?
So we're working really hard as a business to get ourselves on a much firmer financial footing, but for us it's business as usual.
This would be a huge project. At the moment, though, questions around the company's future aren't going away. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
OK, let's take a trip back to 1989 for a moment. Margaret Thatcher was in her 10th year as Prime Minister. The Nintendo Game Boy was the must-have gadget of the year, and acid house was the new sound, sparking the rave scene of the late 80s and early 90s. Now, thanks to virtual reality, thanks to the exhibition at the Barbican, you can experience the sights and sounds and the atmosphere of the era. Anna O'Neill has more.
Hello, tonight's massive party will be taking place as scheduled.
The public phone box was how ravers in 1989 would find out where that night's party was being held. And it's how those taking part in this virtual experience find out too. Those in pursuit of repetitive beats are taking the chance to relive those years here.
I remember going in 1987, East London, at a sort of derelict sort of place, the glow-in-the-dark stuff. You had sweat dripping down off of the ceiling, dripping on you and everything. It's a great experience.
This experience captures a seminal moment in British history.
The government's considering giving local councils new powers to control acid house parties.
Illegal raves took place in fields and warehouses all over the UK, with police desperately playing catch-up. And there was even an appearance on BBC News back then by a fresh-faced young lawyer defending the rights of ravers.
We recognise the local residents' desires to have a peaceful night's sleep and the nuisance and the noise that does arise
Now, of course, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
This experience has travelled all around the world. It really kind of tells a universal story. It's about going out with your friends, finding your community, and then the sun comes up the next morning and you'll feel completely changed.
When illegal raves were eventually stopped, this man saw his chance and licensed events took their place.
We got the first ever legal all-night dance party licence in the country, world, who knows, and that, I would say, definitely hastened the all-night licences in nightclub land.
And those feeling nostalgic at the Barbican can record their memories using the phone box.
I feel blessed that I could relive those emotions.
Still listening to Acid House, still raving.
Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
That was a bit of a blast from the past. Let's take a look at the weather now with Thomas. Were you a bit of a raver, Thomas?
No, not a raver.
Are you sure?
Other things, but not that, no. What about you?
No, not a raver, a clubber.
Clubber, okay. Okay, what have we got on the weather front then? Today, it was really humid. I mean, frizzy hair. I mean, even I felt it. Check. They're telling me in the gallery. Everybody had frizzy hair. A lot of cloud. It's going to feel a little fresher tomorrow. We're going to have slightly fresher Atlantic air, wafting in, but it is still going to be quite warm. Now, there might be some rain early in the morning, and as a result of this weather front that's approaching us right now, and the weather fronts will be crossing over the UK during the course of this evening and overnight. So little bits and pieces of rain, not immediately. In fact, for most of the night, it is going to be dry. There'll be some clear spells here and there. And then towards the early hours of the morning, we'll have bits and pieces of rain, some showers drifting in off the west. And here you can see at 6 o'clock in the morning, sort of funny shaped cloud, shower there. Off it goes. Don't want it. The showers will continue for a time in the morning, but come the afternoon, it is going to be a different story. We've got more sunshine on the way, and it's going to feel warm. So this is slightly fresher Atlantic air, but the temperatures are still going to be pretty decent, around 25 Celsius. The average for this time of the year is about 22, 23, so not far off. And then tomorrow evening, a fine end to the day. So Thursday is looking a little mixed in the morning, and then we've got the sunshine. Here's a look at Friday. Lots of sunshine right from the word go. We've got warm southwesterly winds, and we'll start to see those temperatures picking up because the heat wave is looming. So we're going to get the second heat wave of the summer so far, up to 28. I think the high temperatures will actually be closer to East Anglia, so 26, maybe 27 for London. Fine Friday night, and then the forecast for the next few days. Now, of course, Wimbledon starts on Monday. It is going to be, I really want to emphasise that, a very hot Wimbledon. Now, the record, I think, for opening day is 29, so we are going for a record breaker. So a really, really hot outlook and a heat wave just around the corner.
Scorchio. Thanks, Thomas. That's about it from me. Frankie McCamley will be here with our 10:30 programme. But for now, from all of us here, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.